Welcome to your deep dive. Today, we're going to be exploring this academic article called Mix or Match, Transnational Fertility Industry and White Desirability.
Wow.
And get this, it's all about
Okay.
how this like global quest for having a baby gets all tangled up with like race
Uh-huh.
and specifically the desirability of whiteness.
Yeah,
You might be surprised where this goes, trust me.
really.
Oh, yeah.
I'm intrigued.
It's wild.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a fascinating area of study.
Yeah.
The researcher, Amrita Pande,
Yeah.
is a medical anthropologist who really went deep.
Wow.
I mean, we're talking years of research,
Wow.
even traveling with egg providers
Oh my gosh.
to understand these like hidden dynamics
Really?
of this industry.
That's some serious dedication.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump in.
Yep.
The article talks about how South Africa has become
Also, that's what.
a central figure in this whole thing.
Yeah, and not in the way you might expect.
Real.
South Africa has become this key source for what Pande calls
Right.
traveling whiteness.
Traveling whiteness. What exactly does that mean?
So think of it this way.
Okay.
White South African women are like highly sought after
Really?
as egg providers
Wow.
by intended parents all over the world.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Given South Africa's history and demographics, you wouldn't necessarily think that would be the case.
Right. It is
Yeah.
a bit ironic,
Yeah.
but there's a couple big factors at play here.
Okay.
First, egg providers in South Africa
Yeah.
are paid significantly less than in places like the U.S. We're talking a difference of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
A U.S. egg donation cycle costs $25,000, $30,000,
Gosh.
whereas providers in South Africa are paid just $2,000,
Oh, wow.
and they're often happy to travel for that amount.
So there's this huge financial incentive for South
Yeah.
African women and potentially a big cost saving for the intended parents.
Exactly.
What's the other factor?
There's a perception among some intended parents
Yeah.
that South African whiteness is sort of neutral or easily passes for European or American whiteness.
So they're seeking like a very specific kind of whiteness, but at a lower cost?
Yeah.
It's like shopping for like a very particular
It is a bit like that.
product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this gets to the heart of something called racial matching.
Okay.
Basically, white, heterosexual, intended parents often want their child to resemble them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the article gives an example of a woman named Cynthia
Okay.
who went to great lengths
Okay.
creating spreadsheets and all to analyze the physical traits
Wow.
of potential donors.
She was very serious about this.
Right.
Yeah.
She wanted to find a donor with a specific look
Hmm.
and even talked about seeking a spiritual connection through phenotype matching.
It makes you wonder if this desire to like meticulously select for certain physical traits, particularly those associated with whiteness,
Right.
is more about like control
Right.
and fulfilling a very specific vision
You know, that's a great point.
of what a family should look like.
It certainly raises questions
Yeah.
about the commodification of certain racial characteristics.
Wow. Yeah.
And here's where it takes a fascinating turn.
Okay.
The research also uncovers this growing trend, the desire for mixed-race white babies.
Hold on. So not just racial matching,
Right?
but like intentional mixing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So who's driving this trend?
It seems to be more prevalent among non-white,
Okay.
same-sex or single-intended parents.
Hmm.
The agency manager, Pande, interviewed
Okay.
Liz,
Okay.
actually observed a difference in priorities between straight and gay couples.
Oh, interesting.
When it comes to donor selection,
Okay.
straight couples tend to prioritize a close racial match with the intended mother, while gay couples, Liz noticed,
Yeah.
often focused on the donor's overall attractiveness.
So potentially different motivations
Yeah.
and different ideas about family formation
Right.
are all coming into play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the article highlights this with a couple named Yoav and Guy.
Okay.
They're an Israeli gay couple
Uh-huh.
who specifically wanted a white egg donor
Okay.
after running into these legal restrictions for surrogacy in Thailand.
Oh, wow.
Those restrictions actually pushed them to Cambodia
Really?
to find a clinic
Wow.
that could fulfill their desire.
So they were really determined.
They were another intended parent,
Okay.
David,
Yeah.
was quoted as saying he wanted the best option possible for genetic improvement.
Okay.
Even going so far as to say that genes are everything.
Wow.
Since one partner is biologically excluded from the process.
So in this case, it's not just about resemblance,
Right.
but about a perceived genetic advantage.
Exactly.
It really makes you think about how these choices are influenced by social and legal landscapes. And this desire for a specific type of mixed race whiteness
Yeah,
shows up in other scenarios too.
it does.
The article mentions a Chinese businessman,
Okay.
Kim,
Yeah.
who was looking for a white, Asian-looking egg donor.
That's an interesting combination.
Yeah, what was he specifically looking for?
The interpreter working with him explained that Kim wanted the top race while still holding on to his traditions.
Wow.
And the doctor who was interviewed
Yeah.
put it rather bluntly, they want white.
Wow. That really highlights how this view of white as the top race can cross cultural boundaries.
It really can.
But it does raise the question,
Okay.
what about other forms of mixed race?
That's a great question.
Does the research explore that at all?
That is a great question and one that's addressed directly in the article.
Okay.
We'll dive into that more
Okay.
after a quick break.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, you're right to bring that up.
Yeah.
The concept of mixed race isn't as straightforward as it might seem.
Right.
It's not just about any kind of mixing.
Yeah.
There's a very specific type of mixed race baby that's in demand.
So even within this desire for mixed race children, there's a hierarchy at play.
That's exactly the point Pande makes.
Wow.
While choosing a mixed race baby might seem progressive on the surface, it often reinforces whiteness as the most desirable trait.
So it's not really challenging racial hierarchies.
Right.
Just shifting them around a bit.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And it becomes even clearer when you consider that there's no similar demand for, say, black mixed-race babies.
Right.
This suggests that certain racial combinations are still seen as more desirable. Even when we're talking about intentional mixing, it's almost like whiteness is the gold standard.
Yeah.
Even when mixed with other races.
That's pretty thought-provoking.
Yeah.
It makes you think about the historical context of mixed-race children. Particularly in East Asia, where they've often faced a lot of stigma.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Think about the children born from relationships during colonial periods or during the American military presence in East Asia.
Right.
They were frequently stigmatized, often viewed as a reminder of those power dynamics.
So this contemporary desire for mixed-race white babies is almost a complete reversal of that historical context.
It is.
It highlights how much global power dynamics and cultural perceptions can change over time.
It does.
Wow.
But it also suggests that certain biases can be incredibly enduring.
Right.
We might be seeing a new form of racialization emerging, one driven by individual choice in global markets, with the transnational fertility industry right at the center of it.
It's like the industry is providing a unique lens through which we can view these.
Yeah, but they're also operating within this system, where whiteness is so highly valued.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
And one that Pande addresses directly in her research.
Okay.
She spent time with these traveling egg providers, as she calls them, and discovered a diverse range of motivations for their participation in this industry.
So what are some of the driving forces behind their decisions?
For some, it's purely financial.
Right.
Remember that significant pay difference between South Africa and the U.S. we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
That money can be life-changing,
Right.
especially for women in countries with economic disparities like South Africa.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I imagine it's not always just about the money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some women are driven by a genuine desire to help others realize their dreams of parenthood.
Right.
And for others, there's the appeal of travel and seeing the world.
Oh, wow.
Of course, even that travel is often tightly controlled by the agencies and clinics involved. It's interesting how these seemingly personal choices, both on the side of intended parents and egg providers, are actually embedded in these much larger global systems.
That's what makes this whole topic so fascinating.
Yeah.
It forces us to think critically about the interplay between individual agency and the structural forces at play.
Right.
It really highlights how even our most personal desires can be shaped by these larger systems.
This deep dive is reminding us that the quest to build a family isn't always simple or straightforward.
It's not.
It often intersects with complex issues like race, class, and global inequality.
It certainly does.
Yeah.
And as this industry continues to evolve, it raises some crucial questions that we need to be asking ourselves.
Like what?
What are the ethical implications of choosing specific racial characteristics for our children?
Right.
Who benefits from this system and who gets left behind?
Right.
These aren't easy questions, but they are essential to grapple with as we navigate the increasingly complex world of assisted reproduction.
Absolutely. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
What's the key takeaway you hope our listeners walking away with?
You know, it might seem like a niche topic,
Yeah.
but this exploration of the transnational fertility industry actually reveals a lot about who we are as a global society. The longing for a baby,
Right.
something so fundamentally human,
Yeah.
is deeply entwined with global power dynamics
Right.
and evolving ideas about race and beauty.
It's true.
This deep dive challenges us to think critically about what's driving our desires
Yeah.
and to consider the unintended consequences of our choices in a system where whiteness holds such a high value.
It's a powerful reminder that even our most personal decisions can have far-reaching implications.
It really is. It really begs the question, like, can individual choice ever be truly free?
Right.
When we're operating within a system built on such deeply entrenched inequalities. I mean, the industry might promote this idea of choice,
Yeah.
but those choices are inevitably limited by existing ideas
Right.
about race and, you know, what's considered desirable.
It's like being handed a menu with like a limited selection.
Yeah.
And certain options
Right.
are always going to be presented as like more appealing,
Exactly.
even if that appeal is based on outdated
Right.
or even harmful ideas.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the intended parents either.
Right.
Think about the egg providers.
Yeah.
They're often portrayed as these empowered women
Right.
making their own choices, but their choices are also shaped by this system
Right.
that places such a high value on certain racial characteristics.
So it's like this really complex web of agency and constraint for both those who are like trying to create families
Yeah.
and those who are providing the biological material to make it happen. It's almost as if like everyone is playing a role
Right.
in this system, whether they're fully aware of it or not.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this research so important.
Yeah.
It helps us peel back those layers and see how these like deeply personal decisions
Yeah.
are actually connected to much larger social forces.
It's a good reminder that we can't just focus on individual choices. We need to like look at the systems that are shaping those choices and ask ourselves, how can we make those systems more equitable?
Exactly. If we want to create a world where everyone has a fair chance
Right.
at building a family,
Uh-huh.
we need to address the underlying inequalities
Right.
that are woven into this industry.
Yeah.
That means challenging those assumptions about race and desirability
Uh-huh.
and making sure that everyone has access to the resources and opportunities
Yeah.
they need to make truly informed choices.
It's a tall order, for sure,
It is.
but it's a conversation that we absolutely need to be having.
We do.
So what's like one key takeaway
Okay.
you hope our listener is walking away with today?
You know, I think the biggest takeaway is this. The choice to have a baby is a deeply personal one, but it's far more complex than it appears on the surface.
Right.
It's intertwined with global economics,
Yeah.
evolving ideas about race and beauty,
Yeah.
and the persistent legacy of inequality.
Wow.
By understanding these complexities,
Yeah.
we can start to make more informed and ethical choices
Right.
about how we build our families and shape the next generation.
It's a powerful reminder that even our most intimate desires are shaped by forces much larger than ourselves.
Absolutely.
This has been an incredibly thought-provoking deep dive.
It has been.
Thanks for joining us today.
Of course.
As we explored the often hidden world of the transnational fertility industry,
My pleasure.
we'll see you next time for another fascinating dive
Sounds good.
into the complex issues shaping our world.